As Donald Trump continues to panic, this morning he's essentially threatening World War III right now, saying bad things will happen to China and Russia if they help Iran. This, as many people believe that Donald Trump is getting ready for a ground invasion or at least a massive escalation in the next 12 to 24 hours, and that all of the massive strikes we've seen by the United States thus far in Iran, it's part of a shaping operation to allow potential special forces to invade and attack Iran that way. This follows Donald Trump trying to utilize Iraq's Prime Minister al-Zaidi to beg Iran for a ceasefire. Iran rejected that ceasefire. So now Donald Trump is saying, China and Russia, you can't help Iran or else bad things will happen. I believe this is in advance of the massive escalation and special forces operation, perhaps in Karg or Keshem or in Larak Island. The thing is, Russia and China are already helping Iran, and Pete Hegseth already confirmed that. We knew that without Hegseth confirming that, because also Hegseth lies about everything. So what Hegseth is saying is just the tip of the iceberg. But we knew that. I mean, Iran, they had their foreign minister visit China's foreign minister Wang Yi, and they said it. Russia and Iran have had these meetings at the foreign minister level. They've said it. It's not classified. It's not secret. They say it very publicly, their alliances, military, political, economic. I mean, Russia's helping build the nuclear plant right now with billions of dollars in investment in Iran. Here's Donald Trump's post. Let me show you what he just said. He goes, President Xi, at our recent meeting in Beijing, China, told me that he would not under any circumstance give or sell weapons to the Islamic Republic of Iran, and the statements included Chinese companies. Considering our relationship, I take him at his word. And besides, I'm doing him very big favors also. Yeah, I'm sure, Donald, that Xi Jinping goes, Donald Trump's doing me some solids. Likewise, President Putin, despite the horrible war going on in Ukraine, the relationship remains as it does with President Zelensky, told me that he would not sell weapons to Iran. He understands that I do not sell weapons to Ukraine, but to NATO countries. They pay full price, and how those weapons are distributed, I have no idea. Therefore, two major countries that people speak of often in terms of Iran are, in my opinion, not participating. If they did, it would be very bad for them, certainly not in their best interest. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. The way he just recklessly makes social media posts implying massive world wars with China and Iran and Russia, I mean, it's just so sickening. And again, he's posting this in advance of what clearly appears to be, in the next 12, 24 hours, this massive attack. And you see the planes that are flying into Israel right now, that are in the region in general. You see the air tunnel that's taking place, and it looks like this invasion is imminent with special forces as well. Just to remind you, when Hegseth was testifying, he was asked by a Republican senator, Senator Hoeven, are Russia and China helping Iran? And if so, how? Just watch Hegseth's response for yourself. Let's play it.
Important and will make a big difference for our farmers right now. So thank you for that. Secretary Hegseth, are Russia and China helping Iran? And if so, how?
Well, Senator, as the chairman alluded to, there's definitely adversary alignment, attempts to do so. And there are many ways that we deter that, some of which are, and the depth and extent of it ought to remain classified, and it should, but there are ways in which both of those countries are limiting at different levels, enabling some of the things Iran is doing. Yes.
General Kane, would you like to add?
Sir, I'd rather not opine on the specifics, because that would divulge what we know, and I never want the adversary to know what I know. I just want to know it.
And hopefully we'll get a chance to do that in the skiff.
Yes, sir. Happy to do that in the skiff, sir.
Now, Malcolm Nance also feels the way that I do in terms of there's clearly a shaping operation taking place. Nance says, U.S. forces attacking the areas around the central port village of Masan and Keshem Island and Larak Island feels like a shaping operation for an amphibious raid in the next 24 to 48 hours. We can land on these islands, but we can't hold them. And there's been a lot of propagandists on Fox really pushing for this right now. And this will result in, obviously, the massive slaughter of our troops. But this escalation will certainly result in Iran responding by attacking the infrastructure of the Arab nation neighbors, and it will just completely further destroy the global economy. That's where things are headed right now. And by the way, you see the market manipulation at play also when I looked at the price of crude, which is on a trajectory for $100, $150 rather a barrel. You can see the manipulation of all these shorts trying to come in with all of this incredible disruption. But I suspect that we'll see crude prices at $150 a barrel very soon. An average of $5 to even $6 a gallon of oil soon, $5, $6 a gallon. Here's what we're seeing happen in the region. 10 U.S. Air Force KC-135R aerial refueling tankers arrived from the U.S. to Israeli bases in the past few hours, bringing the total to nearly 100 aerial refueling tankers in Israel, with the massive U.S. Air Force airlift from Europe to the Middle East still ongoing. The U.S. also deployed 2 EA-37B Compass Call electronic warfare aircraft specializing in suppression of enemy air defenses, missions to jam radars and communications, likely for a pickaxe mountain strike. That's the mountain where it's believed that Iran has the capability to have a nuclear program over there. And also there was the recently deployed B-1 Lancers, which may ultimately drop some of these bombs at Pickaxe or some of the other facilities. There has been one B-1 bombing that has taken place already in Iran. This massive new U.S. operation against Iran is likely to begin tonight when the markets close, as Donald Trump often does. And if it is what we expect it's going to be, expect Iran to retaliate. And Iran is responding very strongly already. And they say Iran's IRGC issued its direct warning to all Gulf countries and citizens of these countries move at least 500 meters away from any locations that are being used as cover or hideouts for U.S. military personnel, including hotels. So as Professor Morandi, who's with the negotiating team in Iran, who's with the civilian leadership, he's a well-known professor in Tehran, he says Iran will now target hotels and other buildings across the region where U.S. forces are hiding. And a lot of U.S. forces are hiding in hotels in the region, having evacuated the bases in the Middle East because the U.S. security umbrella doesn't work and the U.S. no longer has the interceptor capabilities in the Arab nation neighbors of Iran. Why are all of these planes going to Israel instead of some of these Arab nation bases? Why is it more concentrated in Israel at Ben Gurion and some of these other airports? Because the Iron Dome still works in Israel. That's where U.S. is protecting. But the United States has basically thrown the Arab nation allies under the bus, and Iran's been picking off all of these bases and all of these defense capabilities in Jordan, in Kuwait, in Al Udeid, in Qatar, in Bahrain, in Erbil, in Iraq, in certain areas in Syria. And we've been covering that here every single day on the MeidasTouch network. This is the type of propaganda going on Fox state regime media. Here's Keith Kellogg saying, here's what we need to do. You take Karg, you take Larak, we control it. We own the Iranian island. Then we say, you want it back? Now you do a deal with us, but we control it. The warmongering, the war crimes, it's horrific. But this is what they're saying. This is what Trump appears to be listening to now. This thinking, as Donald Trump is now desperate. He's panicked. We talked about the Wall Street Journal report earlier this morning. He's terrified. He's lashing out against China and Russia, thinking his social media post is going to do something. It's just showing how weak he is. Let's play this clip.
Take the islands of Karg Island and Larak Island, which is like, it's further to the east, but it's like the command and control center of the Gulf. And you take them to give the president leverage. Now I own something you don't have anymore. We'll give it back to you at the end of this war if you need it, or we're just going to keep it forever. The other thing I think we should be doing is, look, let's go, and if it takes a president...
More from Kellogg right here, saying no negotiations with Iran. It's war. It's brute force. It's killing. It's decapitation. Kill, 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 kill. That's where Trump is right now. I mean, he's a deranged lunatic, Donald Trump. By the way, Keith Kellogg showing what a deranged lunatic he actually is. But kill, 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 which is going to result in the massive deaths of our troops. And I think already when you see the manipulation of the death numbers that Pentagon and Trump are doing, saying, oh, the war actually ended, Epic Fury. This is a new operation, special operation that we're doing. It's so dystopian. It's so 1984 doesn't even do it justice. Let's play this clip.
Negotiating with these guys. We're going to dictate the terms of the war, and it is a war that's going on right now. We're going to keep taking out their leadership. The whole policy about decapitation, we need to continue that. If that means taking out Vahidi or Arachi or anybody else like that, that's fine, because it destabilizes the regime. And the other part, because it gives you leverage, is
And then Keith Kellogg says, and will help the Iranians in the provinces organize their resistance once we have boots on the ground. Did you see the Ayatollah's funeral? Did you see the tens of millions of people out there with the signs, kill Trump, death to the U.S., under Trump? They don't hate the American people. They hate the leadership right there. You think they're going to welcome Trump and Netanyahu with open arms? I think you're not only naive, I think you're disgustingly naive. Here, let's play this clip.
Finding or something like that. Let's start figuring out how we can help the Iranian people organize the resistance against the theocratic regime. We've done it before. We did it in Afghanistan. Our troops are really good. Our agency is really good. And do something like that. You can start a province at a time and just start.
He goes on to say that we need ground troops. I've never seen a war won only from the air. Let's play it.
Seen a war won strictly from the air. Look, I was in the first Gulf War, Jesse, and we bombed for a month and nothing happened. It's when we crossed the berm in Kuwait and Iraq and we got to the Euphrates rivers within 48 hours, it was a 100-hour war. They said, we're not going to do this anymore. And I think we should do that. And the last thing is, and I think it's important, is the president go to the American people. They want to win.
And then he says, the American people want this war. They're begging for it. This is what the American people say they need. Let's play this clip.
Thing too. They understand that you're doing this, not for this generation, but for the kids and our grandkids. We do not need a nuclear Iran in the Middle East. It totally destabilized the Middle East. But the people of America, they can understand hard talk. They can accept hard talk. I think this is the time you bring the American people with you to close this deal out. We haven't got there yet, and we should.
Now, as we look at some of the strikes that took place in the past 24 hours, it looks like the United States military targeted a civilian airport in Kharg Island, destroying helicopters operated by the Persian Gulf Helicopter Services Company, used for offshore medical evacuation, search and rescue, and transportation of oil rig workers. More war crimes there. We've got footage earlier this morning purporting to show a warehouse at a U.S. consulate compound in Erbil, the capital of Iraq's Kurdistan region, after an explosion caused by a successful Iranian missile and drone strike there. We'll play this clip. New low-resolution satellite images confirm that the Iranian missiles and drones struck a Patriot air defense battery in Erbil right there. The IRGC say they targeted the following this morning already at the Muwafiq Salti Air Base, aircraft hangars, aircraft maintenance hangars, U.S. soldier housing areas in Kuwait, Camp Buring, Camp Al-Doha, Camp Arjafan and Ali al-Salam Air Base, ammunition depots, deployment sites in Bahrain. Iran says it hit fuel storage tanks, large equipment warehouses and hangars. The Amazon data center, which we showed you the satellite footage of, that data center was destroyed. And Iran says it will now start destroying Google and all these other companies' data centers in the region as well. Iran's foreign minister Araghchi said the following moments ago: the position of the Islamic Republic of Iran is now far higher and stronger than in the past, and we emerge from this war with strength, and going forward, we will get through this stage with even greater strength. What is important is that the Islamic Republic of Iran is now recognized as a symbol of strong, steadfast, and resilient country, and this is a path we will continue on in the future as well. He goes on to say, Iran has shown that we will not submit to America's bullying, and we will by no means respond to the language of force, pressure, and threats. We neither fear threats nor bow to pressure, and we will not tolerate the language of threats. We have a principled policy and we continue to pursue it. Protecting the people of Iran and safeguarding Iran's interest in the Strait of Hormuz are among our principles, and we are pursuing them. As long as the legitimate objectives and demands of the Iranian people are not fulfilled, it is natural that we will continue our path. I think it's so important that we have an accurate media diet because there is so much propaganda out there that's trying to say, oh, Iran is fully obliterated. They're going to submit. They want to make a deal. By the way, it's why I get my news sources in the morning when I do these videos from Ground News, which provides me with what's the coverage look like on right-wing media? What's the coverage on left-wing media? What's the so-called center saying? So I could compare them. I can see bias. I can see what's independent media reporting on. I can see what corporate conglomerates are reporting on. And Ground News has this color-coded layout. It makes me easy to see this political bias. For example, I was looking at this article. RNC chair outlines GOP message as Trump and Republican disapproval grow. And it was noteworthy that this was what's going on in right-wing media is covering this very heavily and not really on left-wing media or on center. And I think it's helpful that you see that right now in right-wing media, there's massive disarray because Trump's catastrophic war, the economy is being destroyed. And I was reflecting on, it's just fascinating that there's no coverage of how the RNC chair is flailing right now. I use Ground News. I hope you'll use it too. With their blind spot feature is something that I use on a daily basis. I believe in Ground News so much. We're offering you 40% off the same Vantage plan that I use for my research. Just go click the link in the description or go to ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code up here. It's one of the biggest discounts they offered. One more time, it's ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code up here. If you want to support this channel and get a clearer understanding of the world, try out Ground News. Now, speaking of that, what I just shared with you, take a look at what Harry Enton just discussed about the higher gas prices right now and who the American people blame. Let's play it.
Dealing with.
You know, this is where President Trump seems so politically tone deaf. I mean, this is what we're talking about, saying, oh, you know what, it's worth it to me. You know, I'm not actually taking part in the midterm elections, but just look at this. Just look at these numbers here. Is the Iran war worth higher gas prices? And I will note this, obviously, this poll wasn't conducted in the last 24 hours, so this doesn't even take into account the most recent peak. Take a look here. 65% of Americans, we're talking 2 in 3, say no, no, no. The Iran war is not, in fact, worth the higher gas prices. So Donald Trump is here on one end saying, you know what it is. And the American people are here on the other end completely disagreeing with him on this issue of the Iran war and higher gas prices. The American people feel the pain at the pump, and they very much disagree with the President of the United States.
Clearly, the blame for the war kind of on the president, but is it wider than that? Is the GOP also getting hit as we march towards the midterms?
This is exactly right. You know, Donald Trump isn't technically on the ballot come November, but you know who is on the ballot in the midterm elections? The Republicans in Congress. And if there's any fantasy that is out there that somehow what is going on, the blame that's being put on the White House won't funnel its way down ballot, well, I'm here to extinguish that false belief, because just take a look here. Okay, and again, this is before the most recent uptick in the gas prices. Blame which party for higher gas prices during the war? Blame the Democrats? Just 27% blame the Democrats. Look at this lion's share. Again, this 2 in 3 number. 2 in 3 Americans blame Republicans if forced to choose between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Which party do they blame for the higher gas prices? They blame the Republican Party. So all that pain that Americans feel that they are putting the blame on Donald Trump, that idea that it won't funnel its way down the ballot, as I said at the beginning, it is a false belief. It simply put isn't true. Republicans, it is quite unlikely that they will be able to escape the blame that is being put on the White House when it comes to the ballot box come this November. If the gas prices remain where they are, remember, they're going up.
Right. And it's not surprising. They hold the House, the Senate, and the presidency.
They hold everything. They hold everything, Sarah. They hold all the levers of power in Washington. No wonder they're the ones that are getting blamed.
Yeah, which is not unusual. If that had been flipped and the Democrats on the same thing, it would be the same issue. I am curious about...
And now with costs going up, what's Donald Trump doing? More things to make the costs go up even more. Donald Trump announced yesterday, and this deserves far more coverage, that the United States has introduced new tariffs of 10% to 12.5% on imports from 60 major trading partners, including the UK, EU, China, Canada, Japan, and India, covering 99.4% of U.S. imports. And what the U.S. is claiming with these new tariffs, they say under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, we're now imposing tariffs on 60 economies for their failure to stop forced labor. And so the United States is saying we don't engage in forced labor at all, nor do we buy products from any country that has forced labor. That's what the U.S. is claiming. But it says the European Union and Canada and Australia and Japan and the United Kingdom and all of these countries are involved in massive forced labor schemes. The U.S. is criticizing the EU and the UK for forced labor and saying by buying from places that the U.S. buys from, we're tariffing you under the forced labor provision. Really, while the United States appears to be covering up and aiding and abetting right now potential assassinations in Ecuador of prosecutors who are prosecuting the reasons why those people on the fishing boats that the Trump regime has been destroying. There have been numerous people who have disappeared, who have been tortured when they returned to Ecuador after Operation Southern Spear and all of these people on the fishing boat and all those war crimes the Trump regime is engaged in. Well, in Ecuador, they have a Trump-backed dictator, Daniel Noboa, who works with the Trump regime. And now what appears is happening. The prosecutor investigating U.S. boat strikes and torture allegations in Ecuador was just assassinated. Hat tip to Camila Galarza, who did a great article on that. I'll do more reporting on that as well. Great reporting from her. And then finally, you have Trump regime people like Brooke Rollins whining that the Biden administration is the reason why prices are so high right now. Let's play it.
Diesel prices now at $5.20 per gallon. It's about $1.50 than before the war started. What do you tell the ag community right now who's dealing with that?
Well, there's no doubt that our farm economy is in a challenging time, right? Inputs under the last administration up by about 40%, even with those diesel prices that you just mentioned. And I'm not underplaying that that's not important, but that's still less than it was during the Biden years. Now, we got it down way lower before Iran happened, but we're still battling to bring those input prices down, not just gas, diesel, fertilizer, seed, labor, et cetera. And those are all coming down, also opening up the markets. But we're going to get there. And the president's leadership on this is paramount. The next year, our exports are going to hit record numbers. Our inputs are going to keep decreasing. And we're going to get out of this in a big way.
I hear you on the Biden administration, but your administration's been in office for 18 months now. And obviously, this is a war under this current president. The blueprint that was just passed calls for $12 billion in farm aid. It's normally a conservative principle of government shouldn't be picking winners and losers, right? And obviously the farmers are getting help while other industries are not. How do you square that?
Well, I think that what we are looking at, and I've really spent a lot of the last 18 months talking about farm security, is national security. The rural America, obviously a very important part of keeping America free and the ideas of our founding fathers. But it's much more than that. It really is national security.
Well, there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Breaking news right now. My brothers and I wrote a book. It's called WTF America. And well, doesn't that just say it all? It comes out officially this October, but you can pre-order your copy today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description below.